Hello and welcome back. I have got some really great KDP news to share with you all, and it's on a topic that I thought was strong enough to make an individual video about. So I have uploaded quite a few scrapbook paper pads so far over the last 3 months, and guess what? Well, you can probably tell from the thumbnail and from the title, 93% of them have sold. It's certainly a significant number of them have sold. In fact, there is only one that has not sold a single copy. So what I thought we'd do is take a look at my little spreadsheet record together, see what the state of play is. Then I'm going to talk to you about the benefits that I have found to making scrapbook paper to sell on KDP. And then we'll finish up with about 3 or 4 points that I'd like to make about how to make really good scrapbook paper and how to make sure that every scrapbook paper pad that you make actually goes on to sell. I'll divide everything into chapters so that you can skip to the bits that interest you the most. Let's get started by taking a look at this spreadsheet. So I am going to put a screenshot of it up on screen for you so that you can follow along with some of the points that I want to make. You can see that down the left hand side under the blue scrapbooks title, that's where the titles of all the different scrapbooks go. I've whited those out so that you obviously can't see the books and go and find the books, because one of the things, if you've watched any KDP videos, you will know that it's extremely difficult for someone who makes videos about KDP to actually show you their books, because what happens is, you know, someone or lots of people come along and they try to copy them. So you can see that I have uploaded 15 scrapbooks. The one that is in row number 17 though, we're sort of ignoring that because that's a very recent upload, and we're concentrating on those first 14 uploads. And you can see this is just a little spreadsheet that I'm using to keep track of when I've made a scrapbook paper pad and where I've uploaded it, because I haven't talked about this publicly yet. One of the things that I am going to try and do in 2023 is to actually make a sort of fully fledged, a holistic, a whole business based around scrapbook paper. So not just having it as part of a KDP income stream, actually building it out into something that serves people in a lot of different ways. You can see some evidence of that appearing on this spreadsheet. I've got where I've uploaded it to Amazon, it's been turned green, and then you can see that I've started to upload things as printables on Etsy. That's probably going to be another video at some point in the future when I get a little bit further along with it, but just wanted to explain to you the spreadsheet that's here in front of you. If you look at the Amazon column, you can see how often the scrapbook paper pads have sold. You can see that there's that one red one in the middle, that's just one of the books. It's the only book that hasn't sold a single copy, and there's 2 or 3 on there that have only sold 1 or 2 copies. The rest have all sold more than that. They've all sold within, like I said, this period of about 3 months since uploading them, which I'm really pleased about. You can also see that I've got one there that has sold 23 copies. That one's gradually snowballing and gaining momentum. There's a couple there at 14. And the reason why I wanted to share these numbers with you is I'm not here claiming that I have created scrapbooks that are selling hundreds and thousands of copies or anything like that, but I did want to show up and just tell you that actually what I'm creating, like everything I'm creating basically scrapbook paper wise, is making me some sales. And the impact that that's had on my business is that I am having fewer no sales days. I'm still getting some, but I'm getting far fewer of them because the scrapbooks are kind of popping off regularly, and I've really enjoyed making them. I seem to be making them well enough that they are selling, and I wanted to share this experience with you just in case it inspires you to try out scrapbooks if you haven't done already, just to see if you enjoy them, just to see if you can kind of put a few out there and get some guaranteed sales. And what's really given me a boost actually is knowing that as I'm creating a book, in all likelihood it's going to sell and my effort is going to be rewarded in some way. So that's the state of play. And what I wanted to run through next then are the benefits that I've found to creating a scrapbook paper and why I've enjoyed it so much and why it's making such a positive effect on this particular income stream. So the first one is an obvious benefit. It's the same thing that you can do with colouring books and with notebooks and with an awful lot of books, is you can tailor them to particular themes. So things that come up during the year, you can can make them seasonal, you can gear them towards popular colours, popular motifs. I mean, there's probably plenty of unicorn scrapbook paper out there, but you can run through other popular motifs. You can run through events that occur throughout the year. You've got birthdays, you've got Christmas, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got all of those events that occur annually. What I'm noticing is, as I'm sort of building up, and I've only got 14 so far, but as I'm building up these different scrapbook papers that are covering sort of slightly different times of year, different seasons, different hobbies and things like that, it's really evening things out, and it means that I'm getting sort of fairly consistent income from these over the last 3 months. So for example, I think I've got 2 Christmas scrapbook paper pads already. I've got a Halloween scrapbook paper pad. It means that over the course of the last 3 months, I've had something that's specifically geared to each month as it's come up, and they have been making sales because of that. So they are very, very easily themed and easily adapted to any hobby you like, any country you like, any event that comes up throughout the year. They are incredibly flexible. The second thing that I find fantastic about scrapbook paper pads is that you can very, very easily stick to commercial licensing guidelines, the ones that say actually you should be combining the element that you have bought from this artist and combining it with something that you've bought from another artist. When I'm creating a repeating pattern, I'm sometimes using artwork that's commercially licensed artwork from maybe 3 or 4 different artists. And as long as I'm careful that I pick things that go well together, so an example might be that they're all watercolour illustrations, and I make sure that the colours go and that they're sort of tonally about right and that they match each other, then that's fantastic. I know then that I'm sticking to the rules as best as I possibly can. The other thing that's really positive about scrapbook paper pads is that you don't need lots and lots of designs, lots of different designs for each book. I tend to go with a maximum of 10 different designs, and then in a scrapbook paper pad you'll kind of repeat those same designs on several pages. So I might produce a book that's 40 pages, 60 pages long, but actually within that I've only got 8 to 10 different designs that I've actually had to come up with. And then the beauty is, if you create a proper repeating pattern that will kind of sit side by side, then you can have like a big version of the pattern, you can then make it repeat, so you have like a slightly smaller version of the pattern, and that way you can get maybe 2 to 3 different designs just from one piece of work that you've done. Point is that I can sit down on my KDP day. I tend to have like 1 day a week that I get to spend on KDP. Sometimes it's slightly less than a day because of other things that I'm doing, but generally speaking I can sit down and I can create a really good quality book in that day, and also one that I know based on my past history is likely to sell at least 1 copy, probably half a dozen within the next month, and might go on to snowball and sell more over the course of the year. What's also great about it is that there is a way that you can create these really detailed and sophisticated repeating patterns on Canva, and you can do it yourself, and you don't need to hire a designer to come up with your interior pages. You can also create really professional looking front covers, again on Canva, and I promise you they look good without having to pay somebody else to do that for you. Now, the fact that you're creating these intricate, unique repeating patterns means that it's very difficult for someone to copy exactly what you're doing in your book or what you have done in your book. So they might copy the niche, but there's just no way they're going to get the interiors exactly the same as you have created yours, because as you're creating that repeating pattern, you're putting all of these different motifs in slightly different places at slightly different angles. That's labor intensive for somebody to try and copy. So if you are someone who is really worried about that type of thing, about people basically plagiarizing your work, which, you know, is illegal, if you're really worried about that, then scrapbook paper pads are quite good at sort of fending that off, because it's very difficult for people to do and it will take them a lot of time. Now, the final thing that I've really fallen in love with about scrapbook paper is the possibilities to expand it out into a proper business, into something that isn't just an income stream, that's actually got more components to it, that's serving people in lots of different ways. Now, I think that this is probably true of notebooks and certainly true of colouring books. I didn't realise what a big industry scrapbook paper is, because I think most of my scrapbook paper sales come from the US and Canada, and it's a big deal to you guys over there. People do use like decorative papers and do crafting and things in the UK, but I don't think it's such a big industry. So I've been blown away really by just how much demand there is for this particular type of product. If you are creating these, I'm going to call it like proper repeating patterns, the ones that line up with each other. And so you create the square, and then when you duplicate it and you put the two squares together, they all match and it kind of all matches, and you kind of can repeat that pattern properly. You've got the scope to then put those designs onto physical products. You could either do print on demand through Etsy, or you could just pick a platform, and this is what I've been experimenting with, or starting to experiment with, is putting those repeating patterns onto platforms like Redbubble and Society6, where you can get your lovely repeating pattern put on everything, on t-shirts, on bags, on prints, on cards, on phone cases, all sorts of different things like that. And it just gives you the opportunity to take that design that you've come up with and maximize what you get for it revenue wise. And it also means that if you are doing things like adding, you know, a link to a website or linking to other products, and you're trying to sort of build a mailing list and things like that, the more places your designs can be picked up on, the more places where you can get eyes on your products and eyes on your designs, that's got to be for the better. And I think scrapbook paper really lends itself to that type of thing. Now, the other thing that you can do, which I am cautiously doing at the moment, is adding some of your designs as printable paper downloads. You can do that on Etsy, you can do that on your own website, you can do it on something like Gumroad or Payhip or anywhere where you can sell digital downloads basically. Now, I have done this, and I've put a really lengthy kind of like legal disclaimer about copyright on my stuff, which I'm hoping will serve as a reasonable warning to most people. I'm not entirely sure if I'm comfortable with doing this yet, but I am dipping my toe into the water just to see what happens, and I will report back if I get any thieves. If I get any stealers of my stuff, I will report back to you and let you know how that is going. Now what I want to talk about is what I think gives my scrapbook paper pads the edge, certainly enough of an edge to get sales. Now when I think about it, there's actually only two main things that I think you really need to focus on. And I don't think any of this is actually a secret or is actually going to be news. It's just two really key elements to all of KDP, to producing all KDP books. And the better we train ourselves to get at these two things, then I think the better we do at KDP overall. Because I've enjoyed making the scrapbook paper so much, I think I've probably focused on these elements a lot more than I have done previously with other books, and the result has been that the books that I'm producing, the scrapbook paper books, are selling a lot faster and a lot better than my notebooks, and actually even my colouring books. Now the first one is nothing new, and it's something that we all harp on about with KDP all the time, and that is make good books. Make better books than the competition. Make the very best books that you can, and learn how to do it properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example. I haven't even made it yet, but I know what it's going to look like. I'm going to make an example of what someone might typically produce for a scrapbook paper pad. I haven't made it yet, but I know what I'm going to make is going to show a motif or two, maybe even three, pretty much just in kind of rows, nothing much more than that. Now, it's not that you can't sell scrapbook paper like that, but the problem is that everyone can make that kind of scrapbook paper, and everyone sells scrapbook paper like that. So if you want to come up with something that has more of an edge, what I've done with mine, or one of the elements that I've included in my scrapbook paper pads, are true repeating patterns that are complex, that have lots of different motifs in them at different sizes and different angles, and they all weave in and out of each other. And I'm hopefully showing you an example of what I mean on screen now, and you can see the difference between the two. What I would probably do within, or what I have done within a scrapbook paper book, is I might include 1 or 2 pages that are a little bit like that first one that I showed you, something that's kind of quite plain and simple, where the motifs are in a row, there's quite big gaps between them, there's nothing particularly intricate going on with them. I might include a couple of pages like that, but I never make an entire book like that. What I make sure I do instead is to make sure that I am creating at least 2 or 3 really intricate patterns, repeating patterns that are just, like I've said before, they're difficult to copy. They look fantastic. You can scale them up and down, which I'll hopefully show you at the moment. You can have kind of like the original repeat, and then you can scale it down so it's smaller and smaller, and then that gives you, you know, 2 or 3 extra designs for your book. But it just looks incredibly professional and makes your book stand out, because it means that people can cut out pages and kind of fit them together. It means that it's not just things in kind of repetitive rows, if you get what I mean, and you can introduce all of this variety into your scrapbook paper pads and to make them stand out. The other thing that I like to add into my scrapbook paper books are some really beautifully put together scenes. And I will try and create one of those to show you as well, just an example of what I mean. So that would be like a single image that's being compiled from different graphics from different artists to create a nice little scene. And I would have perhaps 1 or 2 of those in the scrapbook. I might have another page that has some quotes or some keywords connected to the topic in all sorts of different fonts. I might include that in there as well. So what I'm creating is this fantastic bundle of different styles and different types of pattern, different elements, bits of ephemera, and a real mixture of things within that book. Now, when it comes to a really professional cover, that's another element to really try and get right. And what I would suggest you do is, yes, look at other front covers, but don't look at other self-published front covers, because what I see happening quite a lot in terms of the front covers of a lot of books and a lot of notebooks is people are kind of looking at them and saying, oh, this is what a front cover should look like, and they're copying it. But actually what they're copying are maybe 2 or 3 not that great self-published front covers. So go to professional grade publishers and have a look at what they're doing, because they are employing trained graphic designers and artists and illustrators to generate their front covers. Have a look at what they are doing. That's what you should be trying to copy. And when I say copy, I don't mean copy outright, but get that. That's the standard. That's the level you are aiming for, not the level of another self-published book on Amazon. I would say the same applies for the interiors as well. I did some research and I went to craft sections of, you know, various shops and online brands and things, and I had a look at kind of what the quality was in the industry in terms of the repeating patterns, in terms of the amount of paper that you get in a pack, in terms of colour palettes, and also in terms of the quality of the front cover. What's the best way to showcase the 8 or 10 designs that you have in your scrapbook paper book? What looks professional, and how can I give my front covers a really professional edge as well as my interiors? So I think I've said I haven't divided this up into individual tips very well at all. I've just started talking about these things. But if we go through it, what are we saying? Proper repeating patterns that are high quality, that are intricate, that are extremely difficult to copy. We're talking about having a huge variety of different types of page, different types of pattern, types of design within the scrapbook paper book. And then we're also talking about a professional looking front cover. Hopefully what I've managed to do in this video is show you some examples of what I mean. Professional looking front cover is huge when you're looking to stand out, especially when you're not using any type of adverts, which I'm not currently. I am going to start experimenting with using Pinterest to kind of push people to my scrapbook paper pads. I haven't done that yet though. And then obviously there's the paid ads that you would get with Amazon. Again, not something I've experimented with the scrapbook paper books. So that's what we've got so far. And all of these things, those of you that do KDP and have even just, I mean, I have a tiny bit of success with it, and anyone else that has a tiny bit of success with it, or even loads of success with it, will probably be saying the exact same thing. Make really good books. Judge what's good by what a professional publisher would put out, rather than always comparing what you're doing to other self-publishers. And then I suppose almost like the second area to look at is that all-important research. There is such a wealth of things that you can create scrapbook paper about. So many different themes out there. By all means, go through what's obvious. Check all the hobbies, check all the different events that come up throughout the year. You can do really simple searches. Those of you that look for niches on KDP all the time know what I mean. You can just start typing something into Amazon and see what it generates, see what comes up. So you can do all of that. And I have done some of that, but what I started to do was just start to combine those niches together. And again, I don't think this is anything new by any stretch of the imagination. I've heard other people talk about this with other types of KDP book, with colouring books in particular. Combine niches together. If there is a colour that's really popular and you've got Christmas coming up, then maybe make a Christmas pack of scrapbook paper that's in this year's trending colour. Maybe if you have got a niche that is Valentine's Day and you've noticed that there's a particular dog that's popular or that people are searching for, I don't know, let me think, maybe a Cocker Spaniel, something like that. Maybe make a Valentine's Day pack of scrapbook paper that combines love and romance and some spaniels. I mean, it sounds bizarre, but people might be looking for that. So get down into the real kind of nitty gritty. Do you know what I'm thinking? There's ways that you could even like cross-reference 3 different niches into scrapbook paper packs. 3 things that people are looking for and start to combine them together into something that may be very niche, but you're going to have this group of people who are willing to buy your product. So when I look through the scrapbook paper that I have uploaded, out of all of those pads, about half of them are doing that. They are combining a couple of different niches. 2 out of those did really, really well at Christmas time because they had these 2 different kind of elements to them. So I don't actually think that anything I've said is particularly new, but I just want you all to know that when you actually start to apply the things that the people who are very successful at KDP are talking about, when you actually start to apply the things that they suggest, which I feel like I have done more so with the scrapbook paper than with anything else that I've produced, then you can see results. And it is possible to put out, what did we say it was, 14 books and have 13 of them make sales. It's not necessarily true that only 20% of your books are ever going to sell, or 30% or 40% of them are ever going to sell. So it is possible, if you make really, really good books, really, really fantastic books, and that you put them out, it is entirely possible that over 90% of them will bring you sales. And then if you apply that without spending any money on ads, without doing anything else, if I took that 90 odd percent and if I say to myself, well, okay, what if I have 100 books, 100 scrapbook paper books on KDP, and at the success rate I currently have, 90 of them actually sell. And what if 90 of them make $100 over the course of a year? So not even $100 a month, $100 over the course of a year. What am I looking at? Suddenly I'm looking at $9,000 a year just from those scrapbook paper books. And then when you maybe do add in some Pinterest marketing, and when you do add in maybe some, experimenting with some ads, well, then that's just going to grow and grow. So for me, this scrapbook paper business has got some real potential. Now, if you have any questions about making a scrapbook paper or about any of the things that I've said in this video, I really do want to hear from you in the comments section, because I'd like to continue sharing my progress as I build this scrapbook paper business out into something bigger and hopefully successful. And I kind of want to share it with you, but I don't know exactly what it is about it that you might be interested in. So pop some stuff in the comments below, any questions, queries, things that you might want to see from me. Let me know what it is so that I can plan ahead for which parts of my journey with it I'm actually going to share with you. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching and spending a bit of time with me today, and I will see you again soon in the next video.